Yate kahasilo. Hello and greetings to everybody who is listening live on Facebook as well as YouTube. You're listening to Politics on the Navajo Nation. This is your host, Cal Nez, and this is part of another series of the 2026 Navajo Nation Council Delegates candidates. And I really felt it was important to get the information out because this is not your typical interview. I want to explore what the mindset, the ideology behind why these candidates are running. And there's going to be, their role is going to be two-part. One is they're going to be dealing with their constituents at all the chapters that they represent. And so this segment is not going to be so much about that. The second part of this was if they should get elected. The truth is this. They're going to come across legislations, maybe not by them, but other council delegates. They're going to have to look at budgets. They're going to end up at a standing committee. So majority of the business that they're going to conduct is going to be for the overall Navajo enroll members. And that's a big responsibility. As is right now, we've got a problem, a huge problem. There is just absolute chaos in Window Rock between the vice or the president's office and the Navajo Nation Council delegate. And we have some serious money issues, and these are the very basis. I'm not going to ask, these are some of the elements, some basic social issues that these candidates need to know once they get to Window Rock. Once they get to Window Rock, the picture changes. So how are they going to be? Are they going to be one of those people who are aligned with other people to create a political scenarios that is not exactly democratic? It's not acting according to the statutes, the titles, the codes, the fundamental laws. Are they going to stand truly by what their people from their chapters have sent them to do? Because right now, there's a list. There's a list out there, whether they're true or whether they're not. But there is a list and there's a guess. Other social media influencers obviously bring that out, and they talk about all the things that we already know about. The problems that chapter has to shika ayeda. Ado pesa na zoge. O nka de shwas. That's the candidate to their constituents. These are just general statements. I've heard it since I was a child. I want to get past that. I don't want to go in there and just say, hey, I'm going to help with healthcare. Okay, this interview is going to be about how are you going to give us a step-by-step of how you're going to address healthcare. Because how many 638s are on the res? And how many are IHS? And then if you should sit on one of the enterprises, how are you going to conduct yourself at those? So there's a lot of stuff, and I'm going to get into contracting. So, because I think these people, our all the delegates, they need to be aware. I want to know. I think the Navajo people want to know. We want to raise the bar. They know the repeat of the same ideology and philosophy and the standard political slogans that are being thrown around out there, even in your little tagline on your campaign slogan, accountability, transparency. I've seen it. We're all tired of it. We we want to know how. Put an example of how you're gonna what you mean by transparency. All of those things. So I'm exploring how these council delegates, should they be elected, how they're going to operate in Window Rock. Ako niya kuro ito hasi don they still kind of establish some of the grounds and the formats behind this podcast and interview. Kare konde, we have a representative who is running for the Eastern Agency portion of the Navajo Nation. And her name is Relinda M John. So I'll give you the floor. Can you just tell us your personal story, clan, where you're from, which chapter you're from, and which chapter you'll be representing?
Yeah. Shay Relinda M John Hunchia. Ado Nahobani Shlo Kethachini Bashchin. Ado Hawatane Bashcho. Ado Dashie Dashanale. Shamasane Bessie Lopez Woody Hojaliende. Ayasana Yizadet Nagande. Ado Shamado Helen Bitsili Hojaliende. Atla Ajiten. Ado Shaja Roger Bill John Sr. Holia. Bluff Utah down naga. De Anna Yizide Kehet Elo. Ado Eshlae Belhaje Rodney do Randy do Rhonda do Roger Jr. Ado She Kedet Nasha Chama Inshle. Ado Shaja Bessan Nahas Liho Aja Shadeja do She Tiliyaja Dahalo. Tasha do Lisa ado Sheena ado Big Boy Hojalia ado Kaden Jagahe Lanisha ako at ego Tano. I have 10 siblings altogether, and they're not step sisters and step brothers to me. They're my sisters and my brothers. So and then I have a mom, Lorraine Martinez John, and that's my dad's second wife, but she's still my mother regardless. She's not my stepmom. Aro Shaskin Ehelo, A.J. Griffith Ojalia. My campaign doesn't say Relinda M. John Griffith because I haven't changed my voting status and my CIB and all that stuff. So I had to go with what was on there. So I'm going with Relinda M. John. I do have 3 kids that I had from my previous marriage. So I have an older daughter. Her name is Kaylee. She's married now. And I have my first grandson. And his name is Leon. And I have a son-in-law. His name is Leander Rockwell. Ado atlin na Ashiyajnde a Elijah Singer Hojolian is Lojatin. A Shemayet Lenat Aj COVID Naslihada. A 23
Sorry to hear that.
823 when I came there. Ado a kid in July a Elias Singer a 8 a just cut dot nalnish a as he's dogati heda gata asahanjaga anti. Ado J.A. Top Alchinelto, A. Shalchine, Ako na ke she ke ado ala it's a Jeremy do JC do Jason Dalia. Ako hotal that's my whole family. And I'm running for council delegate. In the new reapportionment, it's called District 20 now. So Huerfano, Nageezi, Councilor, and Encino were in District 19. And then Torreón and Pueblo Pintado were in District 15. Those two chapters from District 15, Igi Torreón Pueblo Pintada, Huerfano Nageezi Councilor Encino Betlihistogo. It became the new District 20 strong. So those are the 6 chapters that I'm running for.
Welcome. Njone, that's really, literally, you're on the border of the Eastern Navajo.
I am, yes. I'm on on the east side of Eastern. Tutkap Bigahal. No, I'm closer to Huerfano. I'm on the north side of Huerfano.
Okay.
So Nageezi is kind of in the middle, but I have a business and everything, so I'm in Farmington right now.
Okay. Who's the incumbent?
The incumbent for the 6 chapters right now, well before the reapportionment, but it's still Danny Simpson. He's the incumbent that I'm going up against.
How long has he been in there?
Danny, I think it's his first term. So I think he's been there 4 years. Well, this is his 4th year.
Okay. Ako hatila ba council what?
To be honest, the reason why I'm running for council delegate is because I worked for our current president, Nygren, as a community representative for Eastern Agency. Ako November yata kujishan dil na siya that no. Shit hold na ko ajet la I was overseeing 15 chapters all the way from Lake Valley to Nageezi to Standing Rock, Casimiro Lake to Little Water, all the way back to Encino, Ada Kojo Huerfano. So my job entailed of going through the chapters and helping where the chapters needed help, and also the community members, the veterans, the senior centers, whatever their needs were, I was supposed to help. In the window replacement, door replacement, roofing, with all those needs to helping them get their home site lease to the chapters and helping them with their ARPA projects that they had. So that was my job. And I hear beeping. I don't, is that yours?
That's mine.
Okay. So I had the experience I had was, I think I did a really good job at, I don't know if you hear my dogs in the background. Yeah, they're really upset at something. I don't know what they're upset at. But I believe I did a really good job at finding out what the issues were. But you bring it back to the directors and you tell the directors, like, these are the issues. And some of them were really helpful with what they did. But it's like, it just stopped there. And you wonder how are we going to get past this? How are we going to get these issues resolved? So the way that I look at it as is, a police officer. They can't go and they can't arrest somebody, without having a badge. So for me, I can't, there's only so much I can do in my own capacity. But I believe having the title of being council delegate, there's a lot more I can do in regards to helping these chapters and the community members within. So that's why I put in my ballot was to get it done.
So is that your platform?
My platform is basically helping where the help is needed. I'm not out there to make any promises that I'm gonna fix all the roads between Ojo and Encino and get them paved and that everyone's gonna have a home. And no, that's not the idea. The idea is to get these 6 chapters up on their feet so they can help each other for the communities all in between and get them to be self-governed, which they should be doing. Out of all the 6 chapters, there's only 1 chapter that's certified. So it would be my job as council delegate to get all the other 5 certified. And, and that doesn't even, what has been done up to this point in those chapters is I'm not going to go back and say, well, this is what should have been done already. It's going to start from day one with what I do with them. So if these chapters have been audited, it's going to be my job to help them get out of that, to get out of the sanctions, to help them get through the 5 management systems so they can get certified. And then in between there, it's going to be my job to, especially between Pueblo, Pintado, Torreón, Ojo, Encino, and Counselor. If all 4 of those chapters can get an MOU together, they can start grading those roads on their own and maintaining as much as they can on their own without having to depend on NDOT, because NDOT only goes out there 4 times a year. They only grade those roads on a quarterly basis. And that's not enough, especially with the way that those roads are out there. And then Ojo Encino has really bad potholes. That's like probably the main thing. But you have BIA, you have Navajo Nation, and then you also have Sandoval County. So you have 3 entities that need to take care of those roads. And if I have to walk into every single one of those offices, then I will walk in to get those potholes then, because they need to take care of those. It's not about just asking. It's about going in there and making sure that they're doing their job.
Okay. So that's your platform.
Along with a lot of other things, housing needs. One of the things that I saw was the NHA houses. There's the huge issue of these homeowners saying that NHA won't come in and help fix their roof or their doors or their windows because they're homeowners. But in reality, they don't even have title to those homes yet. And the reason why they don't have total title to those homes is because the land that the house is sitting on still belongs to BIA. So somebody needs to be held accountable there. They won't even do the fencing around the complexes because they're saying that those are the homeowners now. So then you have all these livestock that are walking into these housing complexes, which something needs to be done about that, because the whole area, the land still belongs to BIA. If they still have 1 foot in the door, they need to be held to a standard where they at least help with 50% of it, if not all of it. And then their Section 8 housings and their HUD housings, they get a lot of money. They get millions and millions of dollars. And they need to have a security that goes around those houses at night. During the day, it's probably fine, but at night, they need to have security for those housings so that there's no trespassing, there's no violence, and then there's no destruction of property. And that's how they can take care of those homes. But where do we start from? Well, we start from getting everybody at the round table, everybody that's involved, housing, the NHA housing directors, BIA, Navajo Nation, um, everybody that needs to be there needs to talk about this. We can't just say, oh, this is what they said. We need to work together to get this done. And that is the slogan that I have, is stronger communities together. So I'm not just talking about the chapters. We are all together in this. Every entity that steps foot in Navajo Nation, that's the state, that's the federal, that's the BIA. Everybody needs to work together to get some of these issues done.
So, any more on your platform?
Nope, that's pretty much it. It's just, oh, it's on and the initial day. That's how things are going to get done.
Yeah. Yeah. So let me list, and you correct me if I'm wrong. You want to basically, the first thing you mentioned as far as platform goes is that you want to work, you want to help where help is needed. You also want to help chapters with their certification to develop some sort of an MOA for joint efforts to grade the high roads, and also uh, housing needs, and also to address issues with the NHA housing. So far I've got 4.
Yeah, you have 4 now. I mean, there's more. There's a lot more to say. I mean, we have the senior centers, we have the elders. There's a lot to say there because I think our elders, sometimes, not sometimes, but most of the time, don't get the services they that they deserve. Um, I think when I was going through, as I was a community rep, one of the things that happened was the vans that carry the food to some of these elders, they were just sitting there for a couple of months, and I thought that they needed to be replaced or something. But all this time, it was at risk management. They didn't have the insurance on it. That's the reason why they couldn't run those vans, and it makes you think. Ahwe kwede, when we have to pay insurance on our vehicles in order to drive those vehicles at our level, and then someone sitting over there at risk management that's supposed to cover these vehicles for Navajo Nation, and they don't get the job done. Does it really take 2 or 3 months to get something like that done when at the cost of our elders not getting it? That's just, that shouldn't be uncalled, that shouldn't have happened at all. It's uncalled for. And so my job as council delegate is to be there for the senior centers. If I know about something like that, and they tell me, hey, we can't run our vans because we don't have insurance on it, I'm going to be over there at risk management wondering, asking why, how long before they can get this going, because those are some very important issues.
Mm.
And not only that, some of them have elderly abuse, and you just don't hear about it. It's going to take going to those homes directly and helping those elders get out of those situations. And
Hmm.
that's working with the CHRs, that's working with the public health nurses. And
Well,
so,
well, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 chapters you're going to be working with, and then plus your duties in Window Rock on the standing committees, and also Nabikiyati. Should you be elected, those are going to be your responsibility. So when you talk about you saw some disparity between, let's take for instance the elderly assistant. Um, the truck was broken down. Are you kind of confusing the role of the council delegate with what the chapter presidency should be doing? There's got to be an overlap.
No, it's not a matter of confusing that, and it could, it could be very well that it should have sat with the chapter officials in trying to help these senior centers. But what I'm trying to say is, as council delegate, I should be able to see something like that and help those senior centers. And that, as council delegate, I don't think it's a matter of just thinking that I have a title and that I have a job to do in Window Rock. I'm still going to do the same thing I'm doing now. I'm still going to go one-on-one with somebody who needs help in the community. I'm still going to go one-on-one with the chapters. And if one chapter has a need, and whether if it's at state level in Santa Fe or if it's in Navajo Nation, those chapter officials, I'm going to let them know that they're going with me to go figure out how to strategize in helping the situation that they're in. So, and it's not about being council delegate myself. It's about working together on getting these things done. And yeah, it's going to be a very busy 4 years if I get elected into this position, but I'm used to that. I'm used to getting up. I'm used to driving miles and miles across Navajo Nation to go from here to there to help someone in need. Um, and that's just the type of person I am. I'm a very hard worker, and I've always been able to get out there and help people.
What's your education?
So my education is, I graduated high school, and I actually became a certified nurse to begin with in my early years. And then after my divorce, I went back to school and I became a paralegal. So I have a 2-year degree and I'm a legal assistant. So I've been a senior paralegal for 4 different attorneys. 3 of those attorneys, I actually started their businesses with them from ground up, and those businesses are still flourishing to this day.
Hmm.
So I've done a lot of work in that. And if any paralegal knows, and I'm sure they can give me the thumbs up on this, is we're the backbone of those attorney offices.
Hmm. Well, now we talked about the efforts that you're going to make for the chapters and the things that you wish to assist with at chapter level. Um, but then again, let me just reiterate the fact that these your job, every council delegate is going to have to understand this, is that you're going to serve like two areas. One is in Window Rock central government, and one is at your chapter level, and how you bridge the communication between the chapters and the being a member of the 26th Navajo Nation Council. There's going to be decisions being made in Window Rock, legislations, what have you. You're going to have to be looking at contracts. So I want to know how you would conduct yourself and how that you would work. Because right now, as I said, we have a big problem, and that's what I want to talk about. Window Rock, Tao. You know that the president's office and the legislative branch do not have a cohesive relationship. How would you resolve that, being an elected council?
In order to answer that question, I think that going in, if elected into this position, going in and being part of that 26th council, what happened with the 25th council should not put a name on what I'm going to go in there and do. They did what they did, and they're doing what they did. Those are the decisions and those are the choices that they made. That there was choices that were made on both sides. There was choices that were made in the president's office, and then there was choices that were made in the council. But those choices have no bearing on what I'm going to do as council delegate.
So what are you going to do?
I have my own decisions to make. And so those decisions that I make are going to be made on moral values. I have morals. I've listened to a lot of your interviews, and a lot of people are standing on their traditional values, and the way that they conduct themselves is according to how they were raised traditionally. Well, for me, I was raised in Christianity. So I know very little about the traditional aspect, but that doesn't mean that I disrespect it. If those are the choices that a lot of my colleagues will have, then I will respect that. But I know who God is, and that's according to how I live my life. And that's according to how I raise my children. And in every area of my life, the way that I interact with my siblings, the way that I interact out in the world, the way that I set an example for my children, the way that I act in my marriage, the way that I run my business, everything is centered around the way that I was taught through God's love and his mercy and his grace. So if there's a decision to be made on council floor, then I will have to come at it as a point, does this really go against everything, or is this the right thing to do? And I will always choose the right thing to do. And
If Justin Jones won and he has the legislation going through, what would you do?
I would have to know what that legislation is. I would have to read it through and through to see what he's trying to push for. And if he's pushing for something that goes against everything else, if it's not going to be for the good of the Navajo Nation, if it's not going to be good for the people, then no, I won't. I would oppose it.
What about, let's say, Boo Nygren gets reelected and comes to you and says, I want this legislation, I need a sponsor. What would you do?
It would be the same thing. What am I going to sponsor this for? And I'm not going to do it as a favor to him just because he gave me a job at one point. It's not going to be that, because I'm now in a different capacity. I have to uphold the law, and I have to uphold what is for the best interests of the people, what is in the best interests of Navajo Nation.
Okay. So I kind of I don't think I really understood how you would resolve the ongoing issue. You basically said whatever the previous council did has no bearings on how you're going to conduct yourself. Well, here's history. Since the first president, Peterson Zaw, Leonard Haskell was the interim president. Since that time, there has Peterson Zaw, that's in 1990 to today. every administration and every cycle of the Council of Delegates, there have been conflicts. The same thing to various degrees. That's going to be a problem. You mark my word, once you get into office, that's going to still be there. How are you going to resolve that?
You know, like I said, it's going to be the decisions that are made on both sides. I can only uphold myself. If there's something that's there that I need to go across to president's office and have a meeting with president himself about, then that's something I will do. I won't shy to that. If like I said, if there's a need at chapter level, then the chapter officials that are elected into that position are going to go help me resolve those issues. I'm not going to, my job is not to go and lead these chapters around. My job is to back the chapters up, to push them up. So asahado na sharado. We're all gonna get this done together. And if there's something that's needing to be resolved at council's office, and I need the president's office to help me do that, then I will go across if need be, if that's what needs to be done. And I'm sure that not all the other 23 delegates, because there's going to be 24 of us if elected into this position, I'm not the only one that's going to be trying to say, hey, look, we need to do something better. We need to be better at this. We need to talk about this. We need to plan something here. You just don't sit back and shy away from some of those things. And all of us aren't going to be on the same level of everything, but I can only go in there and do what I can with the abilities and the skills that I have. So like it's like if you have a problem with something, you go in there and you try to take care of it. If there's something that I said wrong or did wrong to offend somebody else, I'll go over there and I'll apologize if that's what needs to be done. But
Okay.
if I need to bring someone else to the table, then I'm going to bring you to the table and we're going to talk about this and we're going to get through this and we're going to figure out what's right.
How many of your chapters are certified and how many are uncertified?
Oh, Encino, Aide, Yaha, they're the only ones that are certified. The other 5 chapters aren't certified.
What would you do to assist them?
I would have to go in and see their books to see what they're doing wrong, that they're not getting on this 5 management system. Where are they missing the mark? Where are the issues at?
Okay. Now, what is this a certification?
The
What?
certification is that
Yeah.
they have to meet the 5 management system in order to, and that's according to DCD, because DCD is the ones that oversee the chapters, and they have these policies and procedures that they have to surpass in order to become certified. And
So,
being audited and being sanctioned over and over again is not going to get a chapter certified.
if you so how would you bridge that gap between central government and your chapters?
I would work one-on-one with ASCs and the DCD um, department. Um, I would It would basically come down to the coordinators for each one of those chapters to make sure that they're doing what needs to be done according to the books. And a lot of that is in accounting and um, just pretty much dotting your I's and crossing your T's on everything.
Okay. Um, uh, what is Title II?
Title II is basically I'm thinking of Title 26 right now of the whole government system. So I would, right now, Title 2 is kind of blank in my mind. I apologize.
Okay. Um, let's uh, let's pivot a little bit. We're still going towards that. That was one thing that I was looking for in your platform, because right now there's no secret. I heard it from the time that I got started involved with the Navajo Nation government since Peter MacDonald, the Sitahadan. And the same narrative has been going on with every president, every council, and pretty much the same. And that is when it comes to economic development. People say it, and finally, the way I look at it is they do not understand economic development.
Mm.
So I'm going to ask you, what is economic development to you?
Economic development is basically all the chapters self-governing in the communities there, being able to uh, the community actually make money for itself, to kind of get itself out of poverty, and to in order for them to be self-sufficient. That's economic growth. And the only way that we're going to have economic growth on the reservation is if the chapters will rise up as their own government to take care of its community where it's at. Because right now, when you look at it outside of Navajo Nation, Aztec, Bloomfield, Farmington, they all have their own mayors. And then those mayors have to strategize to come up with the economic system of their towns. So the chapters, they're their own little town halls. They're their own little mayors, but they don't see themselves as that. They sometimes I wonder how the officials actually see their communities, because they don't see it as a town. And in order to have some of these things, that they need a gas station, they need a grocery store, they need a laundromat. And those are one of the things that I really want to work on for those areas out in Pueblo, Pintado, and Encinos, because they don't have a laundromat. They did have one, but it closed down. And
Hmm.
so they have to go out to Cuba, they have to go out to Gallup, they have to go out to Farmington, Albuquerque, in order to do a lot of their laundry. And I bet some of them are even doing laundry at home.
So
And
let me just repeat then. To you, economic development means empowering the chapters.
they're going to have to empower themselves in order to bring the growth to their communities.
Are you are you familiar with Navajo Business Opportunity Act?
Yes,
Can you tell me what that is?
the Navajo Business Opportunity Act is a part of what my business is. So my husband and I have a renovation business, and we have a business license with Navajo Nation. And because we're 100% Navajo owned, we're priority one on Navajo. But we don't get a lot of jobs on Navajo, I'll tell you that. Um, and so there's a lot of vendors across Navajo, and those are one of the things that I support is the small businesses. If I see someone having a food sale, I'll go over there and try to support them, even if I buy a soda or a water, because they're trying to make it. And so a lot of these small vendors, I've been telling them about the Navajo Business Opportunity Act, and I've been talking to them about getting licensed with Navajo Nation and the NSPCI, the loans that they have in order to buy maybe even a food trailer, food truck. Um, and just encouraging them that they can grow in their little business.
Okay, I like that. I like that. I think we need more people who have business, self-employment, or at least have studied uh, business to be sitting in the Navajo Nation Council. That is something that really resonates with me. The time has come, in my opinion. I don't think we shouldn't put politicians, the habitual people who run. Ata bitahanistai. Ata bintahasta. Ata hunetatanisdado obishita iskaihutlahunenadiji. I think all of us, the Navajo people, Daisanasai are Yegundaitoskit. Chutile he leutoi is going to do something very, very innovative, very different, instead of just going back to the same. If you believe and your company is registered with Navajo Business Opportunity Act, business regulatory, and you're on the source list, and there's no jobs coming to you, and you're saying, has the chapter ever helped you?
I would, to be honest, no chapters ever reached out to our business or even through our email or anything to say, hey, we're doing these construction jobs, or this is the job that we're bidding out. We invite you to bid. No chapters ever done that except for Baka Pruitt.
Okay.
And
If that's the case, then why would you say that you want to empower the chapters to improve economic development?
because that's what they're going to have to do. They're going to have to go out there and just do exactly that.
And
And go ahead.
how would you do that? How would you make that happen as a council delegate?
The first thing that I would have to do is I would have to sit down with all 6 chapters, and we're going to have to strategize, come up with ideas. Each one of these chapter officials have a good head on their shoulders, and they're going to come up with ideas. This is what we wanted to do. This is what we thought about doing. And if we all come together and think about it that way, then we can run with some of these ideas. We can get it done. But like I said, the first thing that they need is a laundromat out there. And if these chapters, actually, White Rock chapter actually has a laundromat on their chapter grounds, and I believe they make some income off of that. So that's starting with economical strategy there. And if these chapters could own a laundromat, that would be a beginning.
Yeah. Well, I've been in business doing it for 40 years and doing it in the metropolitan setting, working with federal government, state government, tribal governments, and even procurements from all these departments. And one of the biggest things that I've ever heard, even the state of Utah itself has said, no government should own a business. No government should own a business. That is not, they only facilitate, allow its people to get into business. It's not the job of the government to have a business. That's why I totally disagree with the concept of the Navajo Nation enterprises.
Mm.
They either got to, that those are government owned and they say we're employing people. But honestly, those people that put themselves in there from the CEO to the board Aarot, they form a little nucleus of friendship, and they'll stay there. They'll vote for each other. They'll re-vote again for each other, and they have no obligation to pay the Navajo Nation budget back. Um, knowing that, are you? Do you know that?
I do, and when you think about NTUA, when you think about NECA, when you think about the Navajo Arts and Craft Enterprises, um, it's like why do these businesses continually need Navajo Nation money when they should be thriving as their own businesses and making their own money and paying their own employees within within their business. Um, but it seems like every year we're always budgeting out money to each one of them to keep them going. You know, and it's like our business, for instance. I'm not constantly asking my family, hey, you need to get me out of this. I need you to come in and bring me $10,000 so I can get this done. It's we thrive on our own and we have to make ends meet on our own. And I don't know why these businesses aren't standing on their own like that.
Yeah, that's a big question. There's one company that Nova Dene with DDC or DCC, one of those two. You know, they're not even located on the Navajo Nation. They're in Virginia, they're in Phoenix, they're in San Antonio in Ohio or something like that. They only have a post office box. And their method of communication is just sending emails every once in a while. So their only presence in Window Rock is when they have to talk to the council. So those are the type of issues that if you look at some of these enterprises, it's the same way. People go in there, people say the enterprise is such a great idea, but really it doesn't even employ more than 2,000 max. So, and we have 400,000 Navajos, over 400,000. But we only have 8, 9 enterprises, and they only employ about 2,000. Do we really need those enterprises? What do you think? What's your opinion?
I Navajo Arts and Crafts, we don't need it. I'll
Why?
tell you that. Basically, because Nageezi, when it got started, it was to help a lot of the jewelers and the potters and all the artisans to take their products somewhere, and then Navajo Arts and Crafts was supposed to basically be there to keep buying these products, but they actually got stuck to where they're not moving their product. They didn't promote their business the way that they could have, and so it was like a waste of money, and it's still the same way. And they're not big corporations now. They're still stuck at where they're at an enterprise. That's basically where they're at. Because for us, it's like we're in our 6th year in business, and when we got through the first year, it was kind of like, man, like we got through that first year, but now the goal is to start investing, and to grow more in our business, and that should be always the thing in a business is growth. And I don't think Navajo Arts and Craft have grown very much.
Right. But you still haven't answered, knowing that there's a problem with it. How are you going to address resolving that problem?
That's I think that's a bigger problem beyond me, but I can put in the idea that we don't need this enterprise anymore. Um, and see where we could go with that in not necessarily doing just a shutdown, but slowly shying away from that and getting out of that business. NECA NECA could do so much more. There's so much more that they could do. They could be spreading out to bigger cities in Denver, becoming another construction company there in Albuquerque, in Phoenix, Salt Lake, like all these nearby cities, they could be starting construction companies out there. And that money could be going back towards the Navajo Nation instead of Navajo Nation putting money towards them.
Yeah,
Their money should be coming back in. The
exactly.
same thing with NTUA. Uh, there could be a 5 agency NTUAs to where they're making money for each agency and then that money flowing back into Navajo Nation. Because that's the point in having a business is making money, but it going back into something like for us, it's going back into our families. Um, and our business, we're setting it up to where it's going to benefit our children one day, our
Yeah,
grandkids.
yeah. The whole idea behind all the enterprise is supposed to be this: the products or the services that they produce was never intended for the Navajo people. The Navajo people was never supposed to be their customer. And that's what's so disgusting about Navajo arts and crafts. They go in there and they're selling to the Navajo people when they're supposed to be buying products from the
From
Navajo people, bringing it in and selling it to the world. Nappy, they're supposed to have crops that partly going to be sold to the Navajos, but majority of it's going to be rented out to corporations, ongoing crops. The casinos, that was never meant for the Navajo people. That was meant for the tourists, the Blagana truckers. So there's something wrong. And I think the leadership from the presidents on down, you guys need to rethink this. These are issues that, why it's important because economics, like NECA should not be on the source list. None of the enterprise should be on the source list with Navajo Business Regulatory. Right now, there's a contract bid comes out, NECA, who's owned by the tribe, bids on it. And the little man over here, he gets outbid. That's not right. So, just a little commentary there. Um, Now, when it comes to economic development, I like to explore because you do have a business. There's a certain amount of information that you have. Chikare, Window Rock. For years, probably since the Treaty of 1868, the tribe's been getting funding. Then they've had additional fundings like royalties, interest, what have you, that are coming to the Navajo Nation budget. So every year, whether it's you or the previous council or the previous one and previous one, all they do is take this dollar and they turn it into coins and then they just pass it out to as much as they can to the Navajo Nation. This is going to be a critical answer I'd like for you to share with me. Your own, representing your own chapters and being a representative of the entire Navajo people. What are some of the innovative economic development concepts that you would think of that would take that $1 and turn it into two? You're a business person.
The $1 into $2. Um, I think when you go in there and you're right, there's all this money is separated, during budgeting and whatnot. Um, I would think that it would need to go to where the Navajo businesses, how do we help the sourceless? Going back to when President Nygren had that 1,000 homes initiatives, I would have had thought about it this way of getting the businesses in there, the general contractors to start with. A lot of these thousands homes could have been separated among all the general contractors that were on that source list. And each business that was on that source list could have got a measure of all that money that was going across. And that's how we would have turned $1 into $2 on Navajo, because our source list would have benefited a huge chunk off of that. But we didn't do that. It went straight to one sole contractor, and then it was almost who is how these contracts were done. I don't, Ada bin nah. We ended up in this whole Zenny home thing. And we could have, like I said, we could have used all the finishers. We could have used all the bricklayers. We could have used all the roofers. We could have used everyone, even down to the flooring, on all this. And there would have been that, all that billions of dollars would have been spread across Navajo businesses. And that's what we should be doing. That's what we should be doing from Window Rock, is we should be helping our Navajo businesses that are going to help our Navajo people. That should always be the goal whenever it comes to money.
Well, study the Navajo Business Opportunity Act. That should back up what you're saying. I appreciate this. I really do. Thank you so much. It's encouraging to me to have somebody who has some business know-how running for council, because I think that's what we need. Had the current council delegates and even the president himself, he talks about having some business degrees. Having a business degree versus owning your own business, as you well know, those are two different things. Working for NECA, that's not business. You're an employee of a business. So that is not, exactly correct. So every time he says that, it's like, you were never a business owner. Of course, you work for a business, but that doesn't make you a business owner. Knowing that is just so much more important. So, Joe, these are going to be some of the issues. How the Navajo Nation is going to evolve, pivot to the next phase, is that how are we going to progress instead of just doing the same old thing, telling people that the government is the solution to every problem. The government is not the solution to every problem. The people need to have a mindset, a paradigm shift. And so those are the type of people that I think we should have in our elected position. So in closing, I'm just going to ask you a question. And if you can honestly answer this, I would really appreciate it, just to clear up some air. You know, I really thought about this. I thought about because what I try not to do is get into jinne. But if you look at it, it does kind of make sense. So I'm kind of mixed in between whether it's something that is true or not true. Um, I've There's been a lot of questions, and that is that there's about 3 or 4, possibly 5 former employee or current employee of President Nigrin who were asked to run as council delegate to be able to have a monopoly on the Navajo Nation government. Were you asked to run to be a member of that coalition?
I can't speak for the others, but for myself, no, I wasn't asked. Um, I actually had a different view on everything, and so because of that view, I resigned from president's office about 2 weeks ago. Um, I really thought about the position that I'm in right now of running for a council delegate. Like I said, um, I I went in and I thought, you know what? Why can't I just get this done myself? If I'm elected to this position, I can help the community. I can help the chapters. I can do this. So why not run? Why not do it? So once I put my ballot in, and then I went to a campaign meeting for president, and it's like all of a sudden nobody would talk to me. And I didn't understand that. I really didn't. And I felt like I was kind of shunned a little bit within the administration. Um, so I didn't go to any campaign meetings for about a week, and then I went back, and I couldn't understand it. And and I finally understood it when I went back that following week. And it was, first of all, I was shunned because I didn't tell President Nygren, and I didn't tell Chief of Staff I was going to run for council delegate. I didn't know I was supposed to ask for permission to run for this position, being in the administration. That was number
Mm.
one.
Mhm.
Number two, as soon as I put in my ballot and did my application, I turned in the tribal vehicle that I was driving that same day, because I knew a lot of the events that I would go to across Navajo, across these chapters, was going to entail me doing my campaign sometimes, and I didn't want to be tied to that. And then when I went to that campaign meeting, I told Chief of Staff Sharon Sandoval, who is also the campaign manager for President Nygren, I said, I can't fully support president. I said, I can't do this. I can't campaign for president and run as candidate myself because it's just unethical. I said, it's not guaranteed that President Nygren is going to be the next Navajo Nation president. Nobody's guaranteed. We don't know who the next president's going to be. But whoever that president is going to be, and if I'm elected to this position, I'm going to have to work with that administration. So it's unethical for me to run a campaign for President Nygren and run a campaign for myself. And so that's when Chris Beecher said, we need every support we need. And this is the last hour, and, you just need to fully support. And I said, no, I said, I can't. So I left that campaign and I resigned that very next day, because campaigning for somebody, for any candidate, is a voluntary act. And that's the freedom that we have in America, is to campaign for somebody that we want to back up, that we want to be elected into the position that we want, whether it's for commissioner, whether it's for secretary of state, whether it's the governor, both state, federal, and Navajo Nation. And that should be a freedom that's given to anybody, even to the people that are working for Nygren's administration right now. They should still have that freedom and that choice to make whether they're going to campaign for him or not, and be threatened to say that because I gave you a job that you need to campaign for me. So
there's one little part that you mentioned. When you were making the decision to run for president or for council, you were still employed, and you ran it by the chief of staff. You ran it by Chris Beecher. So
no, I'm correct you right there. I didn't run it by them. I made that decision on my own to run.
But you did say they wanted your support. So
no,
the discussion did take place.
That's the part where I got shunned out a little bit out of the administration, was because I didn't ask for permission. I didn't tell them that I was going to run for council delegate. I guess I was supposed to tell them, and I really don't think I needed to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So if they ask all the other candidates that are running for council delegate right now that are in administration, maybe they did. I can't answer for you because I don't know that.
Yeah. Well, it's just how it looks.
Right.
How it looks. You got Giovanna Begay, who was a quote liaison for Northern Agency, and she was at Sanasi chapter, giving out things, passing out brochures, constantly campaigning. Same thing at so her presence for every chapter, including Shiprock, it was, her exposure was there. So you can either say, well, that's just public service, or you could also say that looks like a pre-campaign, predetermined running for Navajo Nation Council. What would you say to that? Because you obviously did the same thing in your area.
I didn't campaign like they did. I didn't do public service the way that they did. The way that I did things were more ethical. I wasn't out there trying to make President Nygren look good. That wasn't my job. That wasn't in my scope of work. My scope of work was to help someone with their home site lease. My scope of work was to help the chapters with what they needed, the veterans organizations, the senior centers. That was the job that was given to me, and that was what was asked of me from President Nygren. But later on in the administration, especially when it came to the campaign, when it threatened my job of, you need to campaign for me because I gave you a job type of thing, that's when it was like, no, that's not why I went to work. I went to work for the community. I went to work for the chapters. That's what I went to work for. I wasn't out there to give out president's buttons. I wasn't out there to give out president's pictures. I wasn't out there for that. The real job was to help a single mom living in an RV get into an NHA house where it was more safe for her and her kids. That was the job. And and after working for the administration and the things that I did see and witness, that that's the reason why I'm running for council delegate, is because that's what I want to do. I want to do the right thing for our Navajo people in the right way. And that's what needs to be done within the council chambers and within the president's administration. Everything should always be about the Navajo people. It should never be about which company's gonna benefit off of Navajo Nation money, or how much so and so is gonna make. It should never be about that. It should always be about the benefit of the people. Because
Oh,
a benyadete, a benyade de niche dide. And
so
that's where it is. And no, I was never asked to run for council delegate to be part of council so that President Nygren can have more of a foe on council floor. No. And if I was asked that, I would tell you right now, I would have said no. I wouldn't have done it for that administration, and I wouldn't have done it for any other administration if I was asked in that way.
okay, I think we cleared that up. So that's on record now. So going out there, I appreciate you answering that honestly. You know, I want to be the one that goes out there and gives you the fair opportunity for you to voice your opinion and to share your insight. So, 저희 호자도 가리호도 바다하니 젠도 아래 다이스노 사이시 아로 다시 빼서 나부터 스킷 저호도의 나부터 스킷도 아루치 는르네 그로도의 이게 상호즈네. In terms of the Navajo, this is the last. I swear, this is the last question. In terms of the Navajo Nation culture, or the modern method of governance, how much do you think that should be interlaced?
The way that the modern government is now.
Yeah. Versus Navajo tradition.
If we were really thriving off of Navajo tradition, if that's really what our council and our president administration was really going off of, up to this day. If our traditional values were held up within those chambers, and if our values were held up in the president's administration, we wouldn't have any corruptness. And then nobody holds those things up. Everybody says, "Apeno sadesiho kadedin di beniedo hot ashiyaho ado di dedan." And again, once they step into that arena, then nita. And so then they make decisions that don't benefit the people. They make decisions that are unmoral. And so trying to put tradition into the government is not working. It's not working for Navajo Nation. What needs to go into the government is people who have a heart for the people. What we need are leaders that are going to put people before them without thinking about how much money they're going to make or how much money they're going to make for someone else. because I'm going into this, even though I have a business, knowing that I'm only going to make $25,000 a year. I could work at McDonald's and make $25,000 a year. But I'm going into this because I know what these communities need and I know what these chapters need, and it's something that I can help them get it done. That's what I'm going into this for. And those are the type of leaders that we need. You can tell me all the traditional values of everything, because that's what every leader right now is saying that they have, but our government is not working. And then there's no whatsoever within our government system right now on Navajo Nation.
So, since you brought that up, then what? Once you're elected a leader, elected leader, what would you do to turn that around?
I'm not going to turn around traditional values. I'm not going to turn around Christianity or anything like that. What I'm saying is that I'm going to go in there the way that I am now, right now. The person that I am is going to go into this position, and I'm going to do the best that I can to do the right thing for the people and work with my colleagues at the same time and make those right decisions when those legislations come across the table. And even in sponsoring, legislations, I'm going to have to know what I'm sponsoring and if it's for the right thing and if my communities are going to benefit off of this. Who's going to benefit off of it?
Yeah. Jonah, I really, really appreciate that. Thank you so much for everything. Thank you for being here, giving us what your platform is. So when you get to Window Rock, we'll remember and cheer you on. So very powerful, very insightful. I'm impressed with the fact that you're a business owner. So for the next 5 minutes, I would like to have you give us your closing comment, and probably would advise you to be talking to your constituents should they be listening why you are the right candidate for that district.
Yeah, Mr. Nez, for letting me in on your podcast here and the opportunity to speak. And when I'm pretty nervous, that kind of goes out the door for me. But I think a lot of your listeners on here are probably about our generation. But to our Masanes and our Chays, I am very formal and I will speak to them in Navajo. And I do listen to them. Um, and so, out to the listeners that are out there and that are in my District 20, the new District 20 listeners, I will do everything I can for our communities and to always do the right thing. And I will always be held accountable to that. And I will be very responsible in every decision that I make for our communities. And the transparency part of it is I will always be upfront about every sponsorship that I'm doing on legislations. Every decision that I make, I'll always let you guys know why I made that decision. And so there is a lot of responsibility with this position that I'm running for, and I will not take that lightly. Um, and just as much as I take care of my own family and my own children, I will also take care of Navajo and the communities the same. with the same integrity.
Aro khane dasanta.
I'm not in any position. I'm just running. I'm not a presidential candidate, so I don't have a position number.
Okay.
So I am running against 3 other individuals, but I'm not going to name those individuals because I only want you to remember my name, and my name is Relinda M John. So I'm asking for your vote on July 21st to hurdle the primaries for council delegate. And this is for Huerfano, Nageezi, Councilor Encino, Torreón, and Pintado. And on May 30th, I have a meet and greet at Torreón store. So come by, we'll have a food trailer out there, come by and get some free food, and, we can talk about a lot of the issues that are out there. And I will be there from 11:30 to 1:30 on May 30th, this coming Saturday.
How do they get in touch with you?
You can reach me at johnrelinda@gmail.com, but I'm also not afraid to give out my number. So I'm at 505-330-7813. I'm on Facebook, and I'm also on TikTok. I really don't bother my Instagram, but I'm on Facebook and I'm on TikTok.
Okay.
And you find me under my name.
All right. Hey, Aro, you're listening to Navajo or Politics on the Navajo Nation. This is Cal Nez. And again, I want to thank Relinda for spending this time with us. I like this interview. That's good. So, I'll be interviewing some more, get the word out there for all candidates, presidential and also council delegates. We need to hear from you. These people that have stepped up, boy, I tell you, they are focused. They want to do it. They know what they're up against. And so they value the process of this election. Ako shi kuch hot ero le son hit kaya da hot ero da hot sia hot da tla.
Be safe out there, Mr. Nez. Take care.